Okay, welcome back. The market's doing not very much, 25 odd points on the index right now. Let's talk about the big story, which of course is the power from the power space. Now, lots of things are happening. There are investments being made into a large power companies, renewables arms. I'm talking about the Tata Power subsidiary, which is set to raise 4,000 crores via the preferential allotment, something we discussed all day yesterday. But there is also, the sector itself, which is going through a bit of a stress period. Power shortages are back, and that is the big story, which are dominating not across financial newspapers, but otherwise as well. To discuss this and more, we are now joined by Praveer Sinha, Managing Director and CEO at Tata Power. Mr. Sinha, it's great to have you with us here. Thank you very much. Prashant this side. First of all, congratulations on concluding that deal on the renewables front, which I will get to in just a bit. But the story on the power shortage front has been dominating headlines as well. I want to ask you something very specific. Just this morning, Mr. Sinha, we had a government official, actually one of the top bureaucrats from the Haryana state government, telling us that over the next 1 week or so, they are hopeful they will reach a conclusion in negotiations with regards to power they buy from Mundra-based UMPPs. Can you confirm that for us? Is it so close? And what are your negotiations looking like at this point in time?
Good morning, Prashant, and thank you for having me on the show. You are absolutely right that there is a demand-supply gap of power. This year, the summer has come very early, and also with all industries working at full capacity and offices back in action, there is a huge pressure in terms of the demand of power. As far as our Mundra plant is concerned, we are operating 3 units right now. Out of the 2100 megawatt, 1500 megawatt is going to Gujarat and 600 is going to Maharashtra. We are, of course, discussing with all the states to see that we come to some sort of an arrangement, considering that the coal prices have gone up very much on the higher side, and the coal cost has to be a pass-through. And then there are certain arrangements which was agreed as per the HPC recommendations. So all those things are under discussions, and hopefully in next 1 week to 10 days time, we should be in a position to conclude all these arrangements.
Mr. Sinha, good morning and congratulations on the deal itself. And like Prashant, I'm coming back to it. But what is the capacity utilization now at your Mundra plants?
Good morning, Lata. Right now, the 3 units are running out of the 5. So if other states come on board like Rajasthan, Haryana and Punjab, then of course it will run at full capacity. But we are able to supply to these 2 states who were in a very advanced stage of discussion to finalize the supplementary PPA. And if it happens with the others, we'll be able to operate the balance 2 units also.
You have already signed up with Gujarat?
No, it's in the final stages of
negotiation. And Maharashtra?
Both of them are on the same track.
So you are close to negotiation with 3 states?
2 states right now. Haryana and Punjab and Rajasthan have still to start the discussion.
Okay. Do you believe that the current spurt in merchant power tariffs will incentivize states to give you the tariff relief that you seek? And what would the structure of that look like? I mean, just some broad idea.
Yeah, no, I think there is a huge shortage, and there is a necessity and a practical view that we should operate all the assets which are there on the ground. Especially if you can have imported coal plants, you should run them at full capacity. The prices from imported coal plants will be much lower than what is there in the exchange. And also once this additional capacity comes online, then the exchange prices will also come down. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. For the procurers, they will get power, which they require badly. For generators like us, we will be able to operate the plant at full capacity and to that extent serve the requirement of the procurers.
I mean, so 1 minute, you said Haryana, you have not even started negotiating?
They have just started they've just sent a letter that they would like to discuss.
Okay.
It will be more or less on the same lines as is being finalized with Gujarat and Maharashtra.
Okay. And in that case, what would the percentage capacity utilization be? Should we expect you will have volume gains? Will you also have margin gains? What might be the impact on the P&L?
So we will then be operating at full capacity. So it will be operating at 100% capacity, and allotment will be on pro rata basis as per the existing PPA. The rate, of course, will change, and it will be based on the HPC guidelines, which said that there has to be a coal pass-through. But there are certain things in terms of the lender's rebate and some mining profit sharing for the quantum of coal used in Mundra. So those are the aspects which will get covered.
And is this an in-principle agreement for all time? That is, whenever coal prices spike, you will be allowed? Or is this time-bound, like for the current emergency, maybe a year or two?
So those are the details which are being worked out to see that whether it can be a long-term arrangement for the balance period of the PPA or it can be a short-term arrangement. So those are details which are being worked out. But considering that the coal prices are going to be very high for at least next 1 to 2 years, this arrangement will possibly definitely be there during this period.
Right. Mr. Sinha, net, could you give us, again, some idea of the impact this has on your Mundra operations from a profitability perspective?
The details are still being worked out. And once it's concluded, we'll be in a much better position to share it.
But this is cost, broadly, this is cost plus, right? I mean, you're able to then import coal and whatever the cost is, on top of that, you're able to sell with some margin. Is that how this will be?
So it will be cost reflective, I would say, in terms of that the power cost, which is there, the coal cost, which is there, will be a pass-through. And some rebate that we have to offer, and those are the issues that are being discussed.
Okay. Time permitting, we'll come back to it, and our apologies for hijacking this discussion to something else. We were going to discuss the renewable investment. So coming back to that, while it's a very great deal in the sense you're getting 4,000 crores from very reliable long-term investors, the ReNew comparison led people in the street to believe that you will get a higher valuation. People were penciling in something like 50,000 crore. Now your base value comes to 40,000 crore. Was it a tough negotiation, and why did they not agree to the other deal on the street?
Well, this valuation is nearly 50% more than any similar valuation that has happened in last 1 year. Okay. Because what we offer is much more than a normal utility scale solutions which other deals had in them. We are giving a whole gamut of renewable services. And I think one has to look at this in terms of what will be the FY23 EBITDA numbers. So I think it's a very good valuation that has happened. And in the long term, this will help us to create a very strong foundation for future growth. And I think we should look at it not from just today's number, but also what it will create as a value for the company going forward.
Mr. Sinha, where will this money be used primarily? Generation, EPC. Also, what does debt for this business look like post this infusion?
So this money will be used for our growth businesses. We are setting up a 4 gigawatt manufacturing facility. Apart from that, we are already implementing nearly 1.2 gigawatt of utility scale power plants, and we have target to do nearly 2 to 3 gigawatt every year going forward. So I think all this money will be used in the new businesses that we will create for ourselves, the renewable business. It will also be used, we'll be setting up large amount of group captive power plants, and it will be used for that purpose also. So I think this money is going to be adequate for at least next 12 to 18 months investment that we do in all the renewable businesses that we will carry out.
Okay. Your debt is 16,000 crores, I understand, in TREPL. Are you likely to increase it?
Yes, it will increase because the new investments will require 75% of that investment will come through debt, while 25% will be through equity. So I think the way that we are looking is that we will generate enough cash going forward, not only for meeting our equity requirement, but also to cater to the repayment of debt and the interest cost.
You're planning to list this, I assume, by when?
You yourself mentioned these are long-term
Yes.
investors, and they are going to be there for long period of time. So there's no discussion on that aspect as yet.
No. I mean, you can list even to get money from the public, isn't it? And in
Yeah.
fact, for that, would you go for a second round? You said this money will last you 18 months. So should we expect another round of investors at the end of 18 months, public or private?
We'll cross the bridge when we come to it. It's
Okay.
too early to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Mr. Sinha, just to go back to the power shortage issue, you said that you expect coal prices to stay very elevated for the next 2 to 3 years. What is your assessment of, the general understanding is the power shortage, load shedding we are seeing is very temporary, maybe a month, two, it'll pass. But then we get into the monsoon, the rainy season. Is it possible? What are the implications of a few months down the line with low coal inventories, etc.? Your assessment.
See, typically what happens is that the demand has gone up. So even if the monsoon comes, the demand continues to be very much on the higher side. Also during monsoon months, the transportation and mining of coal, the domestic coal, becomes a challenge, as we had seen last year in October. So I think what we need to look at it is from a little longer perspective, that there is going to be demand. The demand increase will only get increased in future years. The imported coal prices will definitely come down from the level it is there, but it is not going to come down to the pre-COVID level very quickly. And we expect that with the elevated prices of coal, it's important that the pass-through arrangement continues till that.
Can you give us some numbers? In late Feb, early March, it had gone to $400 or thereabouts, isn't it? Imported coal. What is it now, and what do you see as the average for the rest of the year?
So this month, the HBA is 288.
Okay.
We do expect that in next 2 to 3 months, it will come below 240, 250 number. And possibly by the end of the year, it will be around 200.
Okay. So to come back to the renewable deal, is there any understanding with Mubadala and BlackRock for another round of investment after 18 months?
We can examine that. Right now, it is important that we conclude this deal.
Okay. No, that's not part of the deal. There is no understanding.
That's not part of the deal.
Okay.
Mr. Sinha, so renewables, of course, is a theme which will continue to grow as your investment also shows. But not just the power situation here in India, but the spike in energy costs globally, does it kind of refocus policymakers, companies, etc., on the need for thermal power? That to meet the requirement for a baseload capacity, at least right now, renewables will not do the job. So the runway for coal-fired power plants perhaps is much longer than what we were sort of thinking about even 2 years down earlier. Your sense, sir?
My assessment is that we should not start looking back, but start looking front. And we should start working very closely on the aspects of storage, on aspects of hydrogen, so that how do we make this infirm power firm? Okay. And I think we should accelerate the research that needs to be carried out, accelerate the pace at which new investment should be made in these areas, so that we find a good viable solution in next 3 to 5 years and it becomes a good alternative to the conventional coal-based plants.
All right. Sir, final question from you. What will fire in the various verticals in TPREL? You have solar rooftop, solar pumps, EV charging business, and of course power generation. So, which will contribute how much, say, a year from now?
I think that all of them will contribute very large numbers. All of them are growing at a very, very fast pace. Nearly, we are seeing in each of these businesses 100% growth in last few years, whether it is rooftop or solar pumps, or even in our EPC business. And you will see that in each of them, the growth will be phenomenal.
Okay.
Mr. Sinha, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. And from all of us, congratulations once again on what is really a landmark deal. Thank you very much for your time. Lata, you spoke with the Haryana bureaucrat in the morning, and it's interesting what Mr. Sinha said. He said that negotiations have just started. They've just sent a letter, and the Haryana official told you that within the next 1 week we will conclude, which means that, I mean, they are willing to give tariff relief, right?
Yes,
from
and
their
he also
side.
mentioned that Gujarat has already concluded.
Yes.
So they have a boilerplate, I would assume, and therefore, if Mr. Sinha is still listening, Haryana thinks that they're going to conclude it quickly. They're way more serious, although it is only one letter sent. But the important point is the power generators are going to get the pass-through, which is positive for both these companies, Adani and
Absolutely.
Tata.
What we'll do is we'll take a very quick break here, and we'll get you more on the markets in just a bit. Stay with us. We'll be right back.